Hello everybody and welcome back to another EPO video. The day has finally arrived where I am going to take a detailed look at my 2020 presidential election predictions. All of my predictions were made at the very end of my final election night video, which was posted on the morning of election day. You can click on the link that will pop up in the top right of your screen right now to go check that out if you haven't already. I made a few typos in the graphics which I corrected in the pinned comment down below, so make sure to reference that if you are doing so as well. But anyways, I've formulated this sheet based on the latest vote tallies in every race as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time on November 22nd, 2020. To help you understand everything in this sheet, let me explain what each column means from left to right. In the first column here, of course, we have all of the 50 states, plus the District of Columbia, and then the 5 congressional districts in Maine and Nebraska. The next column over features what my personal prediction was for which candidate would win in each race, and in the next column to the right is the actual projected winner according to the AP. Scrolling down, as you can see, I correctly predicted the outcome of 49 of 50 states, and of 55 of the 56 races in total. The only state I called wrong was Georgia, which Joe Biden won by just 0.2 percentage points. Moving rightward, the next two columns pertain to the margin of victory for each candidate in every race. This first one is what I predicted the margin to be, and the second one is what the margin is as of right now, according to the New York Times. So those 4 columns are pretty straightforward. However, as for the deviation column, it displays how off I was in regard to each candidate. So for example, in Alabama, my prediction for the margin was that Trump would win by 22.4 points. But as of right now, he leads by 25.6 points, according to the New York Times. And that means for Trump, denoted as R for Republican, outperformed my prediction by 3.2 points. As for the state of Alaska, I predicted that Trump would win by 11.9 points, and he only won by 10.1, which means that Joe Biden, denoted as D for Democrat, overperformed my prediction by 1.8 points. And as you would expect, it goes like that for every state down the line. Then the final 4 columns have to do with my exact prediction for the percentage each candidate would receive of the vote compared to what they actually received, which again is pretty straightforward. And finally, this little key over here explains the colors that you see across the sheet. The margin of error for my predictions was plus minus 4 percentage points, which means that any prediction falling within 4 points of the actual result is colored in green, while anything outside of that is in red. And as you can see just off of a basic eye test, this sheet is predominantly green, meaning I did pretty dang well. Down here below the deviation column, I have calculated just how accurate I was on a margin basis. Across the 56 races, I was off by 2.02% compared to the final result on average. That is well within the margin of error, and it would be lower if it weren't for the margins in all of these congressional districts, which are a lot harder to make an accurate prediction for based off of a lack of polling data. In fact, if I factor those margins out of the average and go by just the 50 states and Washington, D.C., my accuracy is down to below 2 points on average, which is really good. I will make a video sometime soon comparing myself to some of the forecasts out there, but I can already tell you that I was a lot more accurate than 538. Anyways, the number below those two displays my interpreted bias towards either party, and on average, across the country, I favored Joe Biden by 0.72 points compared to the final average. I really don't think that's very bad considering the fact that incumbent President Donald Trump largely overperformed polling data and most expectations in this election. And I was certainly a lot more skeptical of Biden's landslide chances than most people were. Hence why I only projected a 290 to 248 electoral victory, whereas now he is expected to win with 316 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 232. All of that being said, let's delve into where I got things right and where I got them wrong. My prediction for the margin was only outside of the margin of error in 9 of 56 races, and 3 of those came from the 5 congressional districts. However, I will accept that I got it wrong in the states of Hawaii, Maryland, Montana, North Dakota, Ohio, and Wyoming. Only Ohio had a lot of polling data and research done, so I can't really fault myself all that much. In Hawaii, however, my excuse is that it's actually the state where Trump improved the most since 2016, and who really saw that coming? Hillary Clinton carried Hawaii by 32.2 points, and I was anticipating that Biden would overperform, but it was actually the opposite, as Trump narrowed the gap to below 30 points in the Aloha state. All things considered, though, it is still a very blue state, and I predicted that Biden would win, of course, so I'm not too worked up about getting that wrong by over 6 points. As for the state of Maryland, I also thought that Biden would overperform Clinton, but not by 7 points like he did. In Montana, I was expecting the Senate race to make things relatively close, and polling data supported that, but Trump ended up holding a very safe margin of lead. As for North Dakota, Trump overperformed my expectation by just over 4 points, so I'm really just not all that mad about any of those 4 states, because they ultimately really did not matter whatsoever. The one big state where I got things wrong, though, was in Ohio. It was looking for a while like President Trump's margin would be a lot closer than 2016, as Biden led for most of election night. But as the in-person tallies came in from election day, it became very clear that the president had not lost any support whatsoever over the last 4 years. In fact, he won by 8.1 points in 2016, and his lead as of right now stands at 8 points in 2020. Polling averages showed a pure toss-up in Ohio, but I gave Trump the benefit of the doubt and predicted that he would win by a little over 3 points because of his demographic and historical advantage. And ultimately, polling was just woefully off in Ohio, similarly to Iowa. Regardless, I was more optimistic for the president's chances in Ohio than most people, and I got the winner right, so I'll still mark it down as a win for me. The final 4 races where I got things wrong were Wyoming, and well, Wyoming is Wyoming, and then there are the 3 congressional districts, where I was off by less than I would have anticipated given the circumstances. Also, one final point, not a single prediction of mine for the vote totals for each candidate was outside of the margin of error, as you can see in these 2 columns here. It's just that the combination of being wrong for both candidates in particular states led to a margin that was just outside of it. Now that I've spoken about where I got things wrong, let's check out my most accurate predictions. First up, probably the one I'm most proud of, the state of Arizona. If you were a politically engaged Democrat going into this election, you would have expected Biden to win Arizona by at least 1%, probably more. Whereas if you were a Trump supporter, you would have never thought that he'd lose Arizona. I projected a 0.4 point win for Biden, and he won by 0.3. I made that close call even though Biden's lead in polling was hovering over 2 points, because I just had a feeling based on prior voting history that Arizona would be closer than anticipated. After all, in 2016, Trump won Arizona by 3.5 points, so a 5 or more point swing was just not very logistical. I also came within a point in Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Massachusetts, and Mississippi, where I was also off by just 0.1%. However, the next swing state where I was very accurate in, the state of New Hampshire, I predicted a 6.9 point win for Biden, and he won by 7.3 points. In 538's final average for New Hampshire, Biden led by 11.1 points, which is just another example of how important it is to factor in prior voting history and demographics, because Clinton only won by 0.3 points in 2016, so it really did not make any sense for Biden to win by over 10 points just 4 years later in not much different electoral circumstances. I was also off by just 1.3 points in Nevada, which isn't bad, and just 0.8 in New Mexico. In North Carolina as well, I was also off by just 0.8 points, which I predicted Trump would win, unlike most other forecasts and polling suggested. I did expect it to be a little closer than it was, but I got the winner right anyways. I was also very close in Pennsylvania, which was a little closer than I expected, but I was off by just 0.7 points there. So a common theme that you can see here throughout this sheet is that I accounted for a polling error that would favor Trump in the end, based off of a number of different factors, and that is why I was so much closer and more accurate in a lot of these key states. One more example, the state of Texas. I was only off by 0.6 points, while the polling was off by 4.4. They had Trump at 1.1 points ahead of Biden, and he ended up winning by over 5. This is in large part due to the fact that I was never really a proponent of the belief that Texas would go blue, simply based off the Republican strength in that state as of right now. Now, saying that, I do expect it to be even closer in the next few election cycles, and it is only a matter of time before it does eventually go blue. But anyways, that about does it for my accuracy. The final note is that while I got the winner wrong in Georgia, my 1.8 point projected win for Trump still fell within the margin of error, as Biden only overperformed that by 2 points in his 0.2 point victory. So that just about does it. Let me know what you guys thought of my accuracy this cycle, and whether you will continue to trust my analysis going forward with the 2022 midterms and 2024 presidential election. I hope this video will convince you that I am no polling sheep, nor am I biased in my analysis towards any one candidate or party. Thank you all so much again for the support, it means the world to me. Feel free to share this channel with people you know, and make sure that they are subscribed as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like the video down below and check out more content from my channel right here. As always, tune in next time. EP out.